over 6 million students in the United States who are struggling with learning difficulties may be going unidentified for special education services. Hi, my name is Danielle Williams, and I'm a former teacher turned art committee manager and educational diagnostician. And I'm here to help you understand special education. In today's video, we'll discuss the special education process from referral to determination. And by the end of the video, you'll have a better understanding of what really happens when a child is referred for special education services. When I was a special education teacher, I serviced students who had already qualified for special education services and they received support from me. But in the general education classroom, as an English teacher, I supported several students who didn't qualify for special education because they were unidentified. They hadn't been referred, they hadn't been through the process, but they probably could have benefited from receiving some of those supports. Now, if you are a geriatric millennial like me, first of all, who came up with that term? I don't like that term. I like being referred to as an older or an elder millennial or a zennial. Some people say zennial, but if you are in that age range, or maybe you're Gen X or a baby boomer, you probably have a different idea of special education services. So I'll just be honest. When I was in school, when I thought of SPED, I thought of those kids, the kids over there on that hallway in those classrooms. And then I thought of myself and other students as the normal kids, right? Does anybody kind of identify with that? If you do, drop a comment down below in the comment section. Let me know what your thought processes of special education was and what they are now. I thought that special education meant that the kids had to be somewhere else. And I think oftentimes us older adults who now have children, we're now parents, we carry that thought process into 2025, and we believe that special education services are a different place, and we fear those labels. We fear the judgment and the stigma that comes along with receiving special education, and then we allow our own child to go unidentified because of those labels. But when we think about it, when a child is not receiving the supports that they need and they start to struggle in school and their grades start to go down and they kind of have a hard time, sometimes they end up labeling themselves. They'll call themselves dumb. Oh, I'm stupid. I just don't know how to do this. Or sometimes they get labeled by their teachers or even by their own parents. You're just being lazy. You're not working hard enough. So labels are inevitable, but it's time that we become informed and educated and we understand what the special education label actually means. So not too long ago, I had a loved one that ended up being hospitalized. And when they first went to the hospital, the doctors, went through their series of tests and evaluations, and they couldn't really figure out what was going on. But we got to a point where they were still in the hospital and they were still very sick, and we didn't know what to do, and the doctors didn't know what to do, and we're all just in this state of confusion. And I went and had a private conversation with my family members and said, hey, guys, I know we fear what the doctor may think about this or what they may say, but we really need to be honest about what we've been seeing and what was been going on with this loved one, so the doctors could better support them. So we went to the doctors and we said, hey, XYZ, this is what's been going on. And the doctors were like, oh, wow, okay. Well, now that we have that information, we'll run these tests and we'll do these things. And eventually, the doctors were able to come to a different conclusion because they had more information to work with. And that's kind of what happens in the classroom or in the educational environment. We will try to address the students' needs just based on what we know. And we can't really address things based on what we don't know because the kid is not being evaluated. So this process helps us to gain a little more insight on what supports the child may need so they can get the care and they can grow and they can make progress in the way that we would hope them to. Now, let's get into it. Let's break down the special education process in 5 steps. Step 1 is the referral or request for evaluation process. In the referral process, a teacher, a special education teacher, maybe even a counselor or admin may see some things going on with the student that they feel the child could benefit with special education services from. And the other side of that coin is the request for evaluation. That's the guardian or parental side. The parent will make a formal written request and say, hey, I'm noticing some things. I would like my child to be evaluated for special education services. And once that request is made or once that referral is set into place, the district has 15 school days to respond to the parent and start the evaluation process. Step 2 is consent. Because you are the legal guardian, you have to give consent for evaluation. So as I said, I'm a certified educational diagnostician, and that means that I would be probably one of the people that is testing your child to see if they're in need of educational services. So with that, you would have to give consent for a person like myself to test your student. Or maybe they're experiencing some difficulties with behavior. You might have to have a school psychologist test your student. So your consent is giving your permission to have your student tested and have your student evaluated for whatever is needed along this process. Step 3 is the actual testing and evaluation. So a person like myself, an ed diag or a school psych or a speech and language pathologist, anybody that will be a professional providing supports for the child will perform some different tests and assessments. They may interview you, get some information from you to see what the student's strengths and weaknesses are. So after they run those series of tests, they will then evaluate the data and say, okay, well, this means X, Y, Z, or this means this. And based on this, we know that we need to do this. So that is what the third step of the process is. It's testing and evaluation. The fourth step is the determination process. So the testing and evaluation process will happen over the course of 45 school days. I know that seems like a long time, but we want to be thorough in the testing process. And after that 45 days, our committee, which consists of these professionals, the teachers, the parents, counselors, admin, those type of people, will come together to make a determination. And that's in 30 calendar days after the testing and evaluation process. And they'll decide and determine, is the student's weaknesses and their disabilities require special education services? Are they in need of extra supports via special education? Or do they not need special education? Maybe we need to do something else. Maybe we have different recommendations. All of that is a part of the determination process. And the final step is the IEP development process. So if a student is deemed eligible and in need of special education, the committee that I talked about will construct an IEP or an individualized education plan for the student. In this document, it encompasses all of the supports that the student is going to receive under special education, the time frame that they're going to receive these supports, the location that they receive these supports, who's giving the supports. All of that is encompassed in the IEP. This is like the special education Bible per se. Everything that you need to know about your students' special education is going to be in this document. So you're a part of helping the team to decide what is okay, what's appropriate, and what's not appropriate, what's best for the student. That's in the IEP development process. You have to remember that special education has changed a lot over time, and it's constantly evolving. So it's important that we stay informed and we stay educated about what special education actually is today and not hang on to what it once was. Remember that this is a process. There are 5 important steps to remember, but in those 5 steps, there are key timelines. I mentioned 15 days here and 30 days here and 45 days here. All of those things are legal guidelines that we have to abide by. So you may refer your child, but know that the process won't begin the very next day. Your student services won't begin immediately. We have to be thorough. We have to be well informed to make a good decision on behalf of your student. So be patient and work through the process. The IEP is the holy grail of special education. And you may not have all the details of what's included in the IEP, but what you do need to know is you have certain rights to agree or disagree with what's in that legally binding document. So watch my next video to learn what's all included in the IEP document, in that individualized education plan, and understand why it's very important to understand this document completely. Check out the handout below from TEA to get more details about the special education process. Thank you for watching.